the mysterious being that God created. Rarely are the words correctly understood when God said, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness." Genesis 1:26. And never are these words understood. And the Lord God said, "Behold, the man has become as one of us, to know good and evil." Genesis 3:22. You can search from Genesis to Revelation, and you will never find a being like the woman. All through the Bible, the heavenly beings were males, and it seems that it has always been that way. All the angels were males. All the heavenly creatures were depicted as males, and all the beings that were not angels were depicted as males. Job 1:6. The only exception was Chakma, the spirit of wisdom, by Nisi, the spirit of understanding, Etza, the spirit of counsel, Ora, the spirit of might, Da, the spirit of Tat, the spirit of knowledge, and Gira, of the fear of the Lord. Proverbs 4:5-7. Last but not least, we find Ruach, the spirit of God, Isaiah 7:2. I'm not by any means saying that the Spirit of God is a woman. What I am saying is that they are feminine noun, all of them, according to the Hebrew text. Man was created like God, not as God. We are merely a physical representation of spiritual beings, nothing more. In the history of the universe, there was never created, or will there ever be, another being like the woman. Why is this so important and different? Adam was created after the image and likeness of God the Father, and the woman was created after God the Son. She is the life giver in the human family. This is what the name Eve literally means. It's the Hebrew word Chava, the life giver, and all human life comes through her, and without her there is no one made that was made after Adam. That sounds surprisingly similar to another text, doesn't it? All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. John 1:3. As Adam was the first and only in his class, so Eve was the first and only in her class. Both were miraculously created, and both were formed by the hand of God. If she was so important, why was there so little mention of her importance in the Old Testament? While it is true, there was little mention of the importance of the woman in the Old Testament, it cannot go without saying that what is mentioned well makes up for it. And the New Testament builds on this foundation. It doesn't create a new one. It clearly interprets the Old Testament when it declares that it is the woman who represents God's people. Let us be glad and rejoice and give him glory, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife has made herself ready. Revelation 19:7. This wasn't anything new. It came from the Old Testament. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. Jeremiah 6:2. And say unto Zion, Thou art my people. Isaiah 51:16. But the most important and definitive text of them all is rarely mentioned. It is the word that God himself spoke with his own mouth. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between her seed and thy seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Genesis 3:15. Now you can try to interpret that whichever way you like, but one thing is crystal clear. What it says and what we were told it says are two very different things. Keep in mind that it does not say her seeds as of many. God was referring to a particular person here. He was referring to his son. Paul clearly understood this as well when he said, Now to Abraham and his seed was the promise made. He said not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ. Galatians 3:16. But don't take my word for it. Just look around in the churches and tell me, earthly wise speaking, who it is that's keeping the church alive today. It is women that have this task of making warriors in this war zone we call earth. Satan well understands this. This is the reason he has tempted just about all civilization to degrade the woman. Satan has found a way to tempt the student into thinking he is greater than the teacher. Satan cannot defeat her because he well knows that she will at last win the war through her seed. The woman does not engage in this warfare as the soldiers do. She works behind the scenes like a general. Her work is mainly with strategy on the field, not hand-to-hand combat. This is the reason the prophet Deborah didn't want to go to the battlefield. It was not her place to be there. But the men, if they didn't get their duty that God gave them, women will always rise up to the occasion. Their loss is her loss. Ask your mom to tell you exactly what this means. She produces the soldier, trains them to love with all her might, to prepare them to love and defend her with all their might. This is the same thing the army does. If you don't think this is true, go ask the soldier why he or she would pay the ultimate price for land and country. Pay close attention to their response, and you tell me if that is not actuated by love. It's through childbearing that she will be saved. And it's because she bears children that we all have the possibility to be saved. That's a profound truth. But you gotta think about that. That passage in the Bible is always taken to mean something it didn't say. The problem is that we have a very short attention span. It seems limited to one verse at a time. Let's look at that text, including the one before it. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety. 1 Timothy 2:14, verse 15. There is no need to excuse the Word of God or try to rewrite the Bible because we don't agree with what it says. It is clear that it is the woman that was in transgression, and it was the woman who was deceived. No excuses is needed. All we have to do is accept what it says. Then it tells us that the woman will be saved in childbearing. This is where most loses their sanity and refuses to go further. It is taken as though the woman's one and only duty is to have children. If that's what God said the carnal duty of the woman is, tell me what's the carnal duty of the man? This is where we start to draw blinds, because there's only one place where God designated the duty of the man and woman. Genesis 3:16 and verse 19. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed to the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall I bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herbs of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Here God designated the carnal work to each member of the human family. The woman should bring forth children, and the man was to provide for the woman and her children. Can women work? Of course they can. In most instances they don't have any options but to work. Should a woman work? Well, that will depend if they have started the work God gave them. Both cannot be adequately done without jeopardizing the well-being of the child. The woman's highest duty is to bear children. This duty stands paramount to all others, but this is not a demeaning role as it is portrayed today. Far from it. It is because of her that salvation is possible. It is the woman that held the key to man's salvation. Her work was far superior to the work designated to man in this respect, because it was not only a physical work, but it was a spiritual one as well. This is the reason God excluded the woman from manual labor. It is also the reason women tend to be more diligent than men. They are programmed that way by God. When a woman works, she will always tend to treat her work the way she should treat her child, giving it all her attention, and her child the way a man would treat work. With men, it's different. He sees work as a means to an end, and his family as priority. He will work himself to the bone to satisfy their needs. A woman with children cannot adequately do this. The very fact that she leaves her children alone for someone else to raise proves this point. None is better than the other. Both are necessary and needs to work together to be saved. God made sure this was crystal clear when he said by the prophet that she shall be saved in childbearing, but only if they both, man and woman, work together with holiness and sobriety. Sobriety means putting away the holier than thou mentality. This is a joint venture where both stakeholders had the same amount of stock in the company. The only variance is that they bear totally different responsibilities. Now answer me this question. Which is more important, the general or the troops? Why do Satan hate her so much? Well, for one, she represents his worst enemy, Christ. Secondly, she was given something that he wanted. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Isaiah 14:14. In the Bible, there is only one like the Most High, and it is man. Keep in mind that God sees no difference in gender. When he created Adam and Eve, he called them both man. It was Adam who later called her woman because of the fact she was taken from him. The subsequent name did not remove or annul the previous. When Adam called her Eve, did she stop being woman? Of course not. And when he called her woman, she didn't stop being man. The word man and the word God are not names of individuals, they are names of races of beings. There is only one like the Most High, and it is the man race. Now this isn't a contest between man and woman. I hope you didn't get that impression from this video, because this is like the chicken and the egg problem. Which came first? This video is intended to show the profound importance of the woman in the plan of salvation. There is much more to know about this mysterious being that God created from the man. What and who she represents and why. The reason she was created in the first place. If you would like to know more about the woman and the importance she has in the plan of salvation, please get my book on the woman. There will be a link in the description section, and spread the word. Every woman needs to know this present truth about what they are in the pages of the Bible, what they represent in the human family, and who they represent in the Godhead before it's too late. Please subscribe to get this latest video I will be posting by God's help before this via of communication is taken from us. May God bless and keep you. Until next time, be happy and proud of who and what you are. God bless.